Hey up everybody and welcome back. Well, still warm, and as the last video was short and then it was sort of 2 weeks from the video before, I thought I'd show you that I'm not just skiving off, so this is what I'm doing.
Well, it doesn't exactly put Ferdinand de Lesseps to shame, but there's the original pond, and I'm digging it out, so it's going to be this big. Comes round there and this deep. I don't know if you heard that there, frog. We got frogs and newts and all sorts in. God knows where they came from. And everything that came out of here via my tractor with backhoe is mostly up there. So there you go. See, I'm not sitting around just drinking Newcastle Brown.
What are we going to do in the workshop today? Because it's nice and cool in here. I am going to make a little mod here. I'm going to lower the tank mounting, and what I'm actually going to do is the mounting plate I put in for the coil that went into the little nook there in the frame, I'm going to move that slightly forward because that space gets bigger. So what I'm going to do is move the coil a little forward so that it'll be able to, there's a bigger space and it'll be able to come slightly in, because I'm more or less touching the frame, the tank, because actually there's a couple of wires on one side of the coil and they stick out just that enough to be awkward. So I'm going to do that, and I'll pop these couple of plates off here, they're only tacked on, and then we'll sit the tank on without them and see where we want it, and then I'll weld them back on. As I say, I might move it forward a little bit. Certainly going to drop it down. It's going to come down, I don't know, half an inch, something like that. So what we'll do is I'll take it off the box and put some straps on to hold it so that we can see it sitting on the suspension, because at the moment, you know, the front wheel isn't down, and obviously the forks will compress a little bit just with the weight from that. So we want to get it so it looks right when it's in repose, shall we say. So let's get to and do that. I've taken the brackets off, so it's now sitting on the foam pad that was actually stuck on the bottom of this tank, so I suppose it's the one that was on the frame. I've also put that big rubber band thing on the back, so when this is actually bolted down, that looks pretty good. I can actually lift the back up a little, put a bit more rubber under there, but we're still fine for these taps, for the fuel pipes. And of course now as well, you'll notice it's taken up that nasty gap we had there, and I suppose I should check to make sure that we've got all the lock we need. Let me just slacken these off. Hang on, I'm going to have to move the thing on the front of the bike stand. Put it back up on its box so we can get the wheel to go. And there, as you can see, I've got the handlebars canted back. I've still got masses of space here, both sides. So, funnily enough, the tank would have gone on exactly where it was. Bugger, yeah. Anyway, as I say, we're still clear everywhere. That'll go down a little bit because the rubbers are pulling it down at the back. So let me mark this up, and I'll tack the brackets back on, and then we'll come back. Now my order of bits from Master Cars just arrived, so we have got the grub screw with the little nose on has arrived, so I can put that in to lock the stem in there. Alright, and funnily enough, two of them. One came in the box with all the other stuff, and one came on its own. So anyway, there's the great big stainless steel bolt. That's before. So let me go and make it after. And there it is after. Domed up a little bit, nice stainless steel washer. Actually I might have thought these a bit long. But better too long than too short. As long as I threaded it far enough down, of course. Which I appear to have done. So there we go, tighten that down. And then that will go very well when this is all nicely painted in. Oh, nearly gave away a secret then, didn't I? But it should look quite nice. I might polish it up a bit more. The flats are a little on the rough side, but there we go. I fiddled around for a little bit with the original tank mountings, and they were going to be a bit of a bind to weld on, and I didn't like them that much. So I've made up this. This is the first part. This is the actual tank mounting itself. So what's going to happen is that's going to go onto those two like that. Then there will be a piece welded onto there, and that's going to go onto that cross tube, well not a cross tube really, from the steering head back to the spine. There'll be another piece that'll get put on, that'll come back to about here and then turn up slightly, so that will weld to that tube, and then two little pieces coming out so it'll all bolt up. And the way it goes on is like thus. That will go on there like that. So let's go over to the other side where the welder is, and I'll tell you a bit more about this bracket. Now I'm making this up in separate pieces because I'm making it out 1/8 inch, and unless you've got a sort of nice strong brake or some of those things that, whatever they call them, the formers that you put in the press, you know, like a V and an anvil that goes into it, doing the bends can be difficult. Now these here, what I actually did was I bent those sort of at right angles, and then I heated them up and put them on a piece of round to beat them into the angle, to beat them into the curve. But these parts here, they can be really difficult to do, because when you put it in the vise, you know, to hold it there, to start bending it, you can't really heat it up because the vise acts as a heat sink. So you start heating it up, and what you find is where you want to bend it stays not exactly cold, but it doesn't get red, whereas above it, it heats up nicely, gets red and then orange, but the vise is drawing so much heat out you can't get it here, so you can't get it to bend where you want it to. So what I did was I made the top piece, made those two pieces. I just got a sort of long straight edge like that and get it in line, and then tacked it and welded it. Then, as I say, the next thing is we're going to weld that piece on. So I'm going to mark a couple of centre lines so I know where I am. We'll get that done, and then we'll make the piece that sticks out the back, because I'm going to weld that on, put the tank on and bolt it up, because this tube here isn't level, so I can't make it just the same as this. It's actually going to be a little bit lower at the back end, if you could see that. So let me weld this on. We'll tack it anyway to make sure we're right, and then we'll take it from there. Now, because of the way that tube on the frame angles, this piece I don't actually need to turn the end up much at all. So what I'm going to do is put a curve in it to follow the contour of that tube. So as I don't have a forge and an anvil, we're going to do it on this, and a piece of 1 inch, It's actually thick walled tubing to form it on. There we have it. Let's see if I can focus you on this. Ow! I just walked into something. So there's the end. Let me put you on autofocus, which will make funny noises. But and it isn't focusing on it either. Come on, stop pissing about. Oh, sorry. Come on, stop prattling about. There you go. Right. Right, we've got all the bits made and welded on. So, the last test is, did we drill our holes in the right place? Well, will you look at that? Alright, so now what I'm going to go and do is put the tank on, bolt it up and get it tacked so that I know it's exactly in the right spot. Right, there it is on, and look at that. What dummy forgot to switch the argon on? I'm getting up here. I put my little, where is it? Where is it? Here it is. I put the little button thing on, and I'm so concentrating on being up here and getting that in there, and I thought, what's that? And it's because I turned the argon off before I moved the welder over here, thinking I was finished. Anyway, there it is, nicely tacked on at the back and all that. You can see what I mean about that sloping down slightly compared to that, so just that little curve we put in it, just nicely, it'll be a really nice weld around the back. So, let me let it cool down for a couple of minutes and then we'll put the coils on and we'll put the tank on and you'll see that it actually works. There are the coils on. I'm really amazed, you know, that these holes all lined up exactly right. No egging them out at all. I'm getting the hang of this. See? And even they went on. God! Bennett! Alright, here's our tank on, and I think when I've got the saddle done and everything, that's going to look nice. I want to raise it fractionally. They did have 2 rubber washers, I've only got 1 on, so that will raise it about that much. It's only, you know, thickness of a rubber washer. But I think that is fine, and we're still good for our fuel lines. And as I say, there's just, even the forks are miles away. You remember with the other forks, they virtually touched. In fact, they were touching on one side, not on the other. And here, gotta get my hand in. So, next thing to make is a new mounting bracket for the third coil. And actually, I'll see exactly how much space I've got. But what I'm half thinking of doing is taking a little piece out of this. Right? It's not going to compromise anything because I'll put a piece of plate in. I'll just make a slight depression in this so that coil will come further in. But as I said, with the tank all mounted like this now, I might have a little bit more room. So, I'm going to knock off. So I'll see you a little bit later. I've decided that rather than to just try and squeeze the coil in here and have it really close to everything, I'll cut a piece out and give us plenty of clearance. So what I'm going to do is cut this piece out of here. I'll probably actually put the edges at a slope. So the coil will come nicely in there. And then I'll box this piece in, which should give it back its strength. But also don't forget, we're going to have a piece going on here. So that's going to tie all this up. It's not going to weaken this triangulation really. So let me get the grinder with the disc in and cut that piece out, and then we'll come back. Something really minor, but I thought I'd show you it. I've taken the blade off and put it through so I could cut this, but I couldn't cut the angle I wanted because the angle is going to be that way because of the headstock. So, you know, just think about things like this a little bit. I've turned the hacksaw upside down. Now I'm going a completely different angle so I can saw it, and I'm coming from the front to the back, the right angle I want to be. There you go. I've cut the piece out, and as I said, I've put a slight angle on both ends just to make it look a little nicer. So the next thing we need to do is cut a piece of 16th sheet to go in there. So how do we do that? Well, you can measure it and all sorts of stuff, but I always just get a piece of floppy card, put it in like that. Make sure you hold it in place all the time. And there you go. Cut it a little bit big, get your bends in, put it in, and we should be near enough there. So let's cut it out and see if I'm right. Right, there's the piece cut and bent. So that goes in there like thus. Now the reasons for marking it out a little bigger are twofold. One, gives you a little bit of wiggle room. You know, if you're going to miscut something, miscut it too big, and then you can rectify it. But if you cut it too small, it goes in the scrap bin. The other thing is, the extra acts like filler rod. When I do the welding, I can melt this extra piece of metal in, and it'll save doing that. It just makes it a lot easier to do. So let me clamp this up. Tell you what, let me show you the coil in there first. Coil, coil, coil. So that you see now is going to go right in there like that. Okay, so that's nicely in. So that's welded in, and of course hot. So when it's cooled down, I'll dress up these welds a little bit, and then we'll put that piece in. And actually, I think I might cut a nice big hole in the middle of that. But that'll go in, and then we can bolt our coil in, and we're all done. There the 3 coils all in, everything reaches, and that now is nicely tucked in. So let me put the tank on and put that rubber band on the back, and we'll see it finished. So there we are, back where we started basically. Between the tank and the forks, it's been a sort of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Or you might even say 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. But anyway, they're all on, and I'm happy with them now. So that's about it for this week. One last thing, I got an email from Leah. You remember she sent me an email and put me right about the differences in the battery mounting tray thing. So she just mentioned, and I'll mention it as well, this has got a fiberglass tank. And the esters that they use in the resin to bond these fiberglass tanks is susceptible to dissolution in ethanol. So what happens is you end up with just a bag of fiberglass matting because all the resin's gone. Apart from which, of course, it dissolves the resin, dissolves the inside of plastic tanks, and then when it gets down to the carburetor, of course, the fuel evaporates and just leaves what it dissolved in your jets and places like that. So this tank will be lined, and it will be lined with a Caswell product, which is an epoxy. It's a 2-part epoxy. It's completely impervious to ethanol. So don't anybody worry about that. Actually, you can now get resins that are ethanol resistant. I can't remember which polymers they use. I should be able to tell you, but I can't remember. And funnily enough, this thing with fiberglass tanks and ethanol started with boats. They were the first people to notice that the fiberglass tanks, and of course they didn't see them because they're down in the hull, suddenly started to leak and basically fall apart. So there you go. If you've got a fiberglass tank or a plastic tank, either always use non-ethanol fuel or get them lined, but don't use things like cream. I mean, they're just, yeah. So anyway, as I say, that's it for this week. I'm not sure how long it was, but we're all done for now. So you all go off and enjoy yourselves.